Hey guys, Tarke here, and today we've got a bit of an interesting build review. So our friend Caedyn, I'll just read you his message, because we're not going to be able to use Path of Building. We're going to do like a very untraditional build review. So cheers for the help earlier, Blue. But anyway. Hi there, I have a Mac, F, and I play on console. I can't use Path of Building. I love Path of Exile, but I always struggle with builds because I can't use POB. I followed a few builds by this one guy who showed the skill tree progression through his YouTube video itself. However, I love, in caps, your builds. I did take some screenshots of my build, and then we worked out we could do, so I'll skip ahead. But yeah, I was like, P, just send me your profile. So send me his profile. Anyway. Could you tweak my tree and gear, maybe? Thank you. It's my 91 Trickster Toxic Rain. I never seem to get above 4.5, 4.6k. I'm guessing he means life, since he doesn't mean damage, because he doesn't have path building. This is my 4th league. My first league was Harbinger. I played Tornado Shot, and I deleted that character because it was so rough my first go around. My second league was Abyss, and my first try at Toxic Rain. I couldn't survive and never made it to endgame content except for Reds. In Metamorph, I did this Toxic Rain Trickster. This previous league, I ran a Ranger. I was actually able to defeat the Watchstone Conquerors pretty decently, but not without deaths, which made it really hard to level. I've still never fought Shaper or a Guardian. I've just never made it that far into a league. I love the game, but work well 40 hours a week, so every league I only have so much time to play. I'd really want to run a CI character, or at least get my life/energy shield high enough without trading damage so I can get to my endgame and survive most boss fights. Any tips or improvements at all to the character would be greatly appreciated, right? So far, it's my favorite character and the easiest level with by far. Right. So, couple of things. One thing we have in chat. Tell this dude he can use an app called Wine that lets him package up X files to open on a Mac. That's why I use PUB on my Mac. Yes. I was going to recommend something like that. So, fun fact, when I first played Path of Exile, the first time I ever played Path of Exile, it was actually on a boot-camped MacBook Pro. I had a MacBook Pro because I went to film school. So I had a Mac for that. And I ended up frying that MacBook by playing PoE on it. So if you don't know boot camping, I basically I cut my hard drive in half and installed Windows on the other half. And yeah, I also I played and stringed PoE on a MacBook back in 2013 and literally fried it. Like, that is a dead machine now, so yeah. Anyway, so let's kind of look into what he's got so far. So, twice the operating system, half the performance. Yes, but it was so good at frying eggs. He's using a 5-link Cool Rain with Toxic Rain, Void Manipulation, Vicious Projectile, Swift Affliction, Mirage Archer. I'm not a big fan of Swift Affliction in links. I am actually running it in links, and also I'm going to be referencing my current Toxic Rain character that I'm playing. So I'm currently using Toxic Rain, Vicious Projectiles, Void Manipulation, Mirage Archer, Efficacy, Swift Affliction, in that order of importance. The reason, well, no, it's Toxic Rain, Vicious Projectiles, Mirage Archer, Void Manip, Efficacy, Swift Affliction. I haven't got a +3 bow yet, so I would rather use Swift Affliction or Efficacy over an Empower. Once you have plus levels and you've got a level up Empower, I definitely recommend running Empower in your main setup. Okay, but that seems mostly fair enough. In his helmet, he's got a castle damage taken, increased duration, a frenzy, and a steel skin. The castle damage taken levels are all a bit over the place, so that's something we can clean up a bit. So he's gone for a level 11 castle damage taken, which is the right for the steel skin, and then increased duration, so the steel skin lasts longer. That I'm fine with. The random frenzy seems a bit weird. You could put that frenzy in the floating socket you have here if you wanted the frenzy charges. That won't increase the duration of the frenzy charges. That's what you're thinking were happening. But that's something I'd probably drop. An Impulsor for some reason, which will change that. But let's see what he's got going on here. Ballista Totem. Oh, you've got Empower on the Ballistas. Okay. I would want to put this on my main setup, personally. Vicious Proj, Toxic Rain, Withering Touch. So he's kind of using that as like a... like his Wither setup instead of going for a Wither Totem. Last league, I tried this out, and Wither totems just felt better, in my opinion. Saying that, though, since the last patch, they have significantly buffed the life of totems, and Ballista totems you drop maybe you near instantly. So maybe going for like a Ballista's totem isn't that bad. But then if I was to do that, I would go Ballista totem, multiple totem, Toxic Rain, Withering Touch, and that'd be a 4-link. If you had a 5-link, I'd run faster attacks, because this isn't going to be doing much damage. You only really want this to apply the Wither. But I think just going for a traditional like spell totem, multi-totem, Wither would give you better. But anyway. In his gloves, he's going for Skitterbots, Malevolence, Enlighten, Blood Rage. Okay. And then in boots, Flame Dash, Grace, Increased Duration, Vol Haste. Okay. You've gone for multi-craft on the Quiver. The flat chaos damage to attacks isn't really... Is he building dot base? Or is he building... Okay, so generally with Toxic Rain, you want to focus just on the dot number, right? So all you care about is halfway down, where it says deals... So mine does 20,450 chaos damage per second. So with Toxic Rain, it's just about that dot number. And when you shoot it out, all of these little spores, they do a degen around them, and they stack. They then explode. That explosion, the damage doesn't really matter. The main thing is just stack up as many pods as possible. You can see my character is very little increased duration, so the pods don't last for very long. So for my character, the main thing would be getting some increased duration would be huge. But anyway, that's beside the by. Now, when it comes to auras and stuff, I see you're running Malevolence and Skitterbots. If you want more defense, I've been dropping Skitterbots, and I just go Malevolence, Flesh and Stone. What you can do, and I do this on my character, is I've got enough reservation that... Where have I got them linked? I've got Malevolence, Flesh and Stone, and I've got a Skitterbots. And that's because I took these 3 points, and I have the enchant for reduced reservation. If I had those 3 points and an Enlighten, though, I'd have more mana to play with. So you actually have an Enlighten. So depending on what your tree looks like, we could maybe add in those 3 points. And that way you wouldn't have to drop the extra damage you get from the Skitterbots, but you would gain Flesh and Stone, which will give you a AoE blind aura. So that would be pretty nice. So in terms of just the gear that I would swap, before we look into the tree and then links and some other stuff, I'm also going to go over some potential cluster jewel setups you could go for. The Cool Rain is fine. You ideally want to be going for a plus level bow. So you could... Oh, an easy way of getting a plus level bow with a 6-link. There is a div card called Imperial Legacy. It might be difficult to buy them on console, since I know that console trading is a bit scuffed. So you can actually farm Imperial Legacies yourself. They drop in any desert tile set. So if you went to Act 9, you can farm Investari Desert, an Oasis. I farmed half of my set myself manually, and then I bought the rest from other players. It wouldn't actually take that long. You could farm a full set in the complete like SSF environment in a day, easily. You can also use foothills, and you can also use any desert-style layout. So desert-style layout for maps would be desert, dig, etc. Right. So that's one thing that you can look into to get a nice 6 links, as I do know that trading on console is difficult. So that's one thing you could go for. The Impulsor isn't... you are shocking enemies through the Skitterbot, so you are getting like some extra clear from it. So I guess that's kind of cool that you're doing that, but I don't think it's really necessary. If it's something you really like, fair enough. And it isn't the worst chest piece in the world, since it does give you some life. And it does give you unaffected by shock. So it kind of makes sense, right? But I don't really know how worth that is. But whatever. Star Conjures is perfectly fine as a headpiece. It gives you a bunch of life, and it gives you some attack speed. Attack speed will scale your damage. Your Quiver isn't very good. So having additional arrow is nice. So with Toxic Rain, the way it works is that means you'll actually shoot out more pods and stuff by stacking additional arrows. So that's pretty solid. But you can corrupt that on the implicit. And the main mod you're looking for on Quivers for damage is Damage Over Time Multiplier, which is something that just any Quiver can roll. And then Hunter Quivers specifically If you go on PWDB, you can look it up, and I recommend this for everyone. Where is accessories offhand? Because yeah, you can get a big chunk, so you can get up to 25% damage over time multiplier. I'm actually looking for this myself. I still haven't crafted one, but that is a big chunk of damage for your dot stacking. So your ideal quiver would be a eye level 80 minimum, so you can get the big chaos damage over time multiplier roll. You would then want, it's difficult, but you can also get with an eye level 82, you can get up to an 18% more, just like on any quiver type. So it'd be like chaos multi, dot multi, attack speed, life. Very unlikely that you'd hit all of those, but if you could get a life attack speed with either dot multi or chaos dot multi, that's solid. That's really solid. Otherwise, you could just do what I did and just go for like life triple res, which is just a very nice budget option. Also, a nice thing to craft on prefixes, since there aren't that many good prefixes you can craft. Obviously, attack speed is the nice suffix. You can craft flat armor and evasion, or flat evasion and energy shield. Since your character is a trickster, that is a very nice way. Sorry, that's the wrong window. That is a very nice way of getting some extra energy shield. So this is your tree. Now, your tree isn't that bad, but it's missing some pretty important things. So you're missing a lot of life nodes. You root to sun and don't take the full life. You do take both skill effect duration clusters. I think both skill effect duration clusters is kind of overkill. Also, what did you do ascendancy-wise? Ascendancy-wise... There you go. Ascendancy-wise, I would swap this out. So I'm going to show you the tree that I used on the character I played this league. So this was my tree that I used for my Corsair character / Toxic Rain Trickster that I played earlier in the league as hybrid. And you did mention you want to do some kind of stuff with energy shield. So I'll just explain the thought process behind this routing. And then I will also explain the thought process I use for routing my champion, which is a Toxic Rain build, which has a very different routing. So because I wanted to focus in on hybrid stuff, I didn't want to go for acro phase acro, because that cuts your energy shield pretty substantially. So that's why I cut this way. Now, because I'm scaling just the dot, the most important things for me are attack speed, because I'm getting more pods out, chaos damage, because I do chaos damage, damage over time multiplier, skill effect duration, then like defense. So I rooted through the bottom here for the attack speed, because I valued that more than going for the chaos damage. Came up, grabbed life damage, chaos damage. I do this, which looks a bit wonky. The reason I did this is I just wanted high stat requirements. But you can either do that, or you can root through this way. I rooted that way because I wanted the stats, but root somewhere along here. Grab the life. I would 100% come up. I would always come up this way. Rooting through, get some life, get some damage. A nice bunch of damage over time. Some dot multi on growth and decay. Red and blood, atrophy. You may not want to go that way, but you 100% want to come up, right? You will want to come up to here. 100%. So if it comes to, like, if you would decide to, like, maybe make this build again, scratch into Delirium League for early leveling, since you did say you like that step by step, I'll quickly show you just how I would root this character completely freshly. I would root through this way. I'd then come up to Blood Siphon and grab the damage. Then grab Entropy, so I'm just getting damage, damage, life, damage, damage, life, damage. At this point, I'd then come down that way, grab damage, grab life, grab life, grab damage. I would then finish getting this full cluster. And that's kind of like your early core. Now, from here, you've got a few different ways of going about it. A lot of people like to come along this way and then do the whole acro phase acro thing. And if you were to then do that, your tree would look, you kind of come this way, grab, a lot of people like this cluster gives a bunch of attacks and damage over time, so just dot, not multi. Grab life, and you come across, go into range for some attack speed, some life, some mana. You can get some mana sustain, get some mana sustain, get some damage, get some life. Come across, this is a really good cluster for damage. Get some life, fill this in, come across, boom. The problem with this kind of tree is it's very point heavy, and you didn't pick up many jewels. By the time you start filling in the jewels, it's like this level 100 build. So that's kind of like a bit steep. Where do you like cut the points? So this tree is actually pretty similar to the tree that I'm playing on my current Toxic Rain character. And for this character, I opted not coming up this way into the skill effect duration, since I have other plans to do the skill effect duration. But you can see that I came through, grabbed the taxi, grabbed life, grabbed damage, grabbed life, grabbed damage, grabbed life, grabbed damage, grabbed life, and then I came up this way. Because I came up this way, I got the reduced reservations from the 3 auras, grabbed the damage, grabbed the life, came up. For a pure life setup, I kind of like this tree. The reason I haven't been going for acro, phase acro in a lot of my builds these days is because of Molten Shell and Vol Molten Shell specifically. If you run a Granite Flask, especially if you run a Granite Flask of Iron Skin, which gives increased armor on it, you get a whole bunch of armor, so that when you then press Molten Shell, you get a big Absorb Shield. When you then press Vol Molten Shell, even with my character, which doesn't actually have very much armor on it at all, it currently only has 10.8k with my Granite up, that's an 8k Absorb. When I've only got just under 6k life, having an Absorb of 8,000 is insane. And a lot of the damage in Path of Exile, while yes, there's lots of like random spike damage, you tend to know when it's coming. Because it's a case of like, I'm about to do a Legion encounter. Legion's very tanky and very rippy, so I kind of want to make my character more survival. Or I'm about to do a Metamorph. Metamorph is very rippy. I'll go for that. Or you're against a very scary boss fight, or like a very scary Delirium, whatever. Also, because your builds scale so much skill effect duration, your Vol Molten Shell would last for an incredibly long time, right? So it's the kind of thing that you really want kind of going for there. And again, acro cuts down on your armor, so I would maybe consider not going for that. So, if you wanted to, you could then just come down this way, as I showed on this character, and you could just kind of like have a bog standard routing where you just came across, and you could just copy this like verbatim, right? Now, what you could do, however, is play it how I played my Trickster, because I took Escape Artist and Prolonged Pain. Now, these points give damage, and this is nice for the mana sustain. However, if you go for Ghost Dance has Ghost Shards, which is very powerful, which is when you hit, you lose a Shroud, and you recover energy shield equal to 4% of your evasion rating. And then Escape Artist gives energy shield equal to the evasion on your chest piece. So, I was using a Restless Ward, and because I was using a Restless Ward, this node is just straight up giving me a whole bunch of energy shield. Right? So, from here, the way that I redid my tree, I came through all this for the evasion scaling, because the evasion scaling makes me avoid hits, and it also boosts up my energy shield recovery from Escape Artist. I then went across, getting more evasion. Here you'd get your skill effect duration cluster. Then grab all of Psalm Life to make your character a lot tankier. You could then still come down this way, but I then opted to come across this way because I really focused into this like hybrid setup. I got Melding, which gives me life and energy shields. I grabbed a Jewel. I came across. I grabbed a bunch of life. I gained some area. I grabbed some life. That was kind of like my basic like level 85 tree. And my character, if you go back and you watch my videos with my full hybrid gear, I had 6.5k life and then like 2.5k energy shield, and I felt incredibly tanky. I ended up restructuring that character to CI and then dying. Don't do that. I would stay as hybrid base. But yeah, you could then maybe fill in Charisma to run the triple aura setup we talked about earlier. You could instead fill in Arcane Will, grab Arcane Focus, and go for this more like hybrid-y setup. You've got a few different options. If you didn't want to go through that and you want to stick mostly life focus, I'll just talk through the gearing I have on my current character and kind of like my thought process behind it. So for my helmet, because I'm scaling a bunch of armor for my Vol Molten Shell, I just wanted a good armor base. I went for this one because I had the enchant, because I have the Enlighten. Strength gives you life, so if you can get strength on any of your gear alongside a good life roll, that's very important. A bunch of res, and then I crafted physical damage from hits taken as fire damage, just to give me more mitigation, because you have resistances. which like mitigates a bunch of your damage. If you're converting your Fizz to Elemental and you have high armor, it's making your armor more effective. Because the way that armor works, armor is better against small hits and less effective against big hits. So anything you can do to reduce that base hit is very solid. I was using just an incursion chest because it gave me a whole bunch of life. So you can see it's got 151 life, 8% life. So that's because it has the incursion mod of 116 life and then percent life. And then it also had the hybrid mod, and then I crafted percent life. Now, really, I should divine this chest. I should have, if I was intelligent, I would have divined it before I crafted the mod on there, because I could have gotten up to an extra 2% maximum life on my chest piece, but oh well. For my gloves, I went for hunter gloves, because much like with quivers, you can get the dot multi-roll there. Life, and then I crafted attack speed, because attack speed is very important. Now, because I'm a champion, I always have Fortify, so I was using the Perseverance belt, so I also had Onslaught. You won't have access to that as a Trickster. For my boots, again, I wanted for armor base. These are another pair of Incursion boots, which have the very powerful movement speed and spell dodge roll on there, with life, a bunch of resists. A very easy pair of boots that you could get, since I know that trading is difficult on console. You could farm at Zeri and go for Styri's Step boots. Zeri's Step boots have a whole bunch of evasion, which is good if you do the whole Ghost Shroud setup we talked about. They have up to 70 life, and they have up to 16 spell dodge. So even though I'm saying maybe you should cut the whole, like, dodge thing, you can still get a lot of dodge on your character without having acro phase acro. So that's something to consider. And then I also have I'm using a lot of incursion gear on this character, I just realized. I'm using 2 rings with the Zopex mod, which give your non-channeled skills of minus mana cost. Now, you're playing in standard, so the only way you could get these rings would be through just running a lot of incursion encounters. If you were to remake that character in Delirium League, the way I actually got these rings was by farming Harbor Bridge, because Harbor Bridge just gives you a lot of items. And then my amulet is an amulet that I upgraded into a talisman through Syndicate, and I was lucky and I hit the Frenzy Charge on Kill mod, and I crafted the -5 mana cost. So if you've unlocked that mod, you could craft -5 mana cost on your amulet and both of your rings, and reducing your mana cost is very nice for Toxic Rain, because Toxic Rain can be a bit steep with mana, and mana recovery and mana regen is often one of the things people struggle most with when it comes to Toxic Rain builds. And then I just have a whole bunch of life and resistances, but anyway. I hope that was kind of helpful. Your setup is actually surprisingly decent, and like your tree wasn't really that far off like a few of the things that I just kind of mentioned. If you didn't want to do like a massive respec of your character and you just want to make your character a bit tankier, then I would drop these nodes along the top, and I would fill in all the life stuff that you missed basically, and maybe cut some excess damage mods. Also, there's like lots of things which just like, it sounds dumb, but just count. So for 2 points here, that's 30%, and 20%, so that's 50% damage for 2 points. That's a lot of damage for 2 points, right? Whereas here, this is like 10%, 10%, 10%, 10%, 12%. Yes, this also gives you a lot of attack speed, but you have quite a lot of attack speed in your setup, so these points aren't worth as much. I also wouldn't recommend really going for all the frenzy charges. I'd drop those. Frenzy charges are a great source of damage, but they're very point heavy. So you can see that by cutting all those frenzies, you manage to fill in all that life, and then you could maybe go back into these nodes that you skipped. You could also grab Revenge of the Hunted. I would definitely take Method to Madness, and I would definitely, at the very least, if I can convince you of one thing, definitely take this top section. Like, this top section is set. Like, you have to take Method to the Madness, you have to take Hunter's Gambit, you have to take Growth and Decay, and you have to take Atrophy. They're just too powerful. But anyway, I hope that was helpful, Caedyn. Best of luck with the console adventures, and I'm honestly pretty impressed by your setup, because I do know that getting gear on console is pretty difficult. But yes, I'm Tarke. Have a good day, console players. By the way, bye-bye.